The 1985 Indianapolis 500 was the 69th running of the race. At this time, IndyCar was sanctioned by USAC, and the race was included in the 1985 CART PPG IndyCar World Series. The same year, the Speedway celebrated 40 years of ownership by the Holman George family. This race doesn't just have one of the most famous IndyCar moments and Indianapolis 500 moments of all time, but one of the most famous motorsports moments of all time. Pancho Carter, Scott Brighton, and Bobby Rahal would lead the field to green, all starting on the front row. Mario Andretti was a favorite going into the race, and Pancho Carter and Scott Brighton were considered the underdogs due to reliability issues with the Buick engine at the time. Pancho Carter leads the field in the iconic 3-wide start to the green flag.
This could be the time, it should be. There's Sweeney with the flag in his hand. Here come the cars, and they're racing in Indianapolis. There goes Pancho Carter on the radio screen, headed for turn one. Brayton and Rahal going low, getting the lead. Bobby Rahal takes the lead. Brayton is second, Carter is third. Mario Andretti moving on the outside.
Rahal unexpectedly, we didn't think he'd have the power in that Cosworth engine to take the lead from the Buicks. But Rahal making an outside move, took a clean lead. He's midway down the back straight, probably going about 216, 220 right here, Jim.
And the sound that you heard was not an explosion from any car. That's the traditional fireworks that go off, signaling the start of the race.
Mario Andretti there in second place, Jim. Mario told me shortly before the start, he said, Sam, I think I have the best chance I have ever had to win this race.
Well, we conjectured before the race, would he go for the lead in turn one? He did. Bobby Rahal got there first.
Bobby Rahal with a strong move on the outside at the start of the race to take the lead, and he was followed in second place by Mario Andretti. Pancho Carter, the pole sitter, who immediately fell back on the start of the race, would bring his car down pit road only 6 laps in and end up retiring from the race with an oil pump issue. As I mentioned before, there was concern with the Buick engines not being reliable enough to make it the whole race, but to not even make it 10 laps, that's pretty wild. 15 laps into the race, the first yellow flag of the day would come out when Jose La Garza lost an engine on track. With smoke coming out of the back of his car and putting fluid down on the racing surface, it was a pretty easy call to throw the yellow. The leaders would hit pit road, and when the race resumed, Mario Andretti would lead the field back to the green flag.
Racing again at Indianapolis. Bobby Rahal still leading, being pursued by Mario Andretti. 2 red cars, and there's smoke coming from the car of Scott Brayton, who has been running in third place in the race. That's the second Buick to go.
Yep, both Buicks suddenly stricken with at least very serious problems, whether they're engine related or not. But you know, Jim, I still admire the teams for having tried this. The Gallus team there with Pancho Carter driving Scott Brayton's own team. They tried something American, they tried something different. For Buick, they're not really in the racing business. It's just a way of kind of tapping the American public on the shoulder and saying, hey, look, we're interested. We're doing something.
On that restart there, the commentator was a little confused, I guess, with the 2 red cars, but it was indeed Mario Andretti who was in the lead at that point with Bobby Rahal actually in third. Scott Brighton, who got credit for leading a lap during the pit cycle, was in second place. And pretty much immediately on the green flag, his engine went as well, putting an end to his race, and both Buicks, who started up front, didn't even make it 20 laps into the race. The race would stay green for 3 laps, but obviously Scott Brighton was not up to full speed when his engine even went, and he would not make it back around and would come to a stop on the track, bringing out the yellow flag. The broadcast would miss the restart, unfortunately, but Mario Andretti was still in the lead.
We're on lap 32 of a scheduled 200 in the Indianapolis 500, and Mario Andretti leads the race 16 years after he won it once. In second place, Bobby Rahal. Third place, Emerson Fittipaldi. Fourth place, Al Unser Jr., who has moved up from 11th place on the starting grid to 4th in the standings.
On lap 48, leader Mario Andretti would hit pit road under green. This would hand the lead off to Emerson Fittipaldi, but Mario Andretti's pit stop was pretty unique and something that you would never see in IndyCar today. As when he hits his box, everything seems pretty routine, but you notice the guys changing the tires are taking their sweet time, and that's because they filled this car fully up with fuel but only took right side tires, which is something you basically only see in NASCAR, and obviously with the pit crews of today, something that will never happen in IndyCar again because it just doesn't make logical sense. but back then it did, and it was pretty interesting. Just 3 laps later, Emerson Fittipaldi would come down pit road, and that would give the lead to Danny Sullivan, who I haven't really even mentioned to this point in this video, and he's the guy that this video is all about. But that would be the first time he would take the lead of the race. But pretty similar to Emerson Fittipaldi before him, his lead would be pretty short-lived and would last only 6 laps, before he too had to hit pit road to make a green flag pit stop. This would result in Mario Andretti returning to the lead of the race. On lap 73, we would see the 3rd caution of the race as Derek Daly came to a stop on track. As that was happening, AJ Foyt's car caught fire in the pits, and those alcohol fires back then burned invisible so you cannot see them, but they extinguished it pretty quickly. At this point, AJ was also already out of the car as he's retiring from the race with a front wing problem, which is another pretty bizarre thing that you'd probably never see in IndyCar today. Under this yellow, we also got a pretty classic AJ Foyt interview. Listen to this.
Right now, Jack Arute is with AJ Foyt.
AJ, what happened?
Well, the right front wing broke early in the race, the adjustment, and I couldn't have no right front wing, and all I could do was push, push, push.
And then the fire in the pits, how did that happen?
Well, it was pressurized, and we released some pressure, and I spilled some fuel there, and then it ignited.
1 mile short of 10,000 miles, 1 mile short. You gotta wait till next year.
I'm not gonna worry about it.
Just classic AJ Foyt, you gotta love it. The race got back underway, and once again, the restart was missed by the broadcast. I don't know what it is with all these classic races that I've revisited on this channel, but so many of them had this one common theme of missed restarts, and it's starting to turn into a joke. But Mario Andretti was still out front with Emerson Fittipaldi in second. Mario Andretti would continue to lead during this lengthy green flag run, only swapping the lead back and forth with Emerson Fittipaldi during the pit cycle. But after the pit cycle was all said and done, Mario Andretti would retake the lead of the race, but all of a sudden he had pressure from behind, and that was the number 5 of Danny Sullivan.
On the race course, look at this battle now for the lead. The 2 red cars, Mario Andretti, number 3, and number 5, Danny Sullivan.
Look at where Sullivan is running, Jim, way down under the yellow line. He's running a much tighter groove than Andretti. A very different approach to how to go fast here, and it is obviously working because he has closed in from several seconds out to where he can see Mario's tailpipe.
Danny Sullivan may be a new name to most people in the last couple of years, but he's been at this game a long time. For 13 years, at the age of 35, he has paid his dues all over the world in racing, so he knows what he's about.
You know, it's one thing for Mario to have bad luck. It's quite another thing for him to be chased down on the racetrack and passed. Now, these are 2 different cars. Andretti's is a Lola, one of the very few in the field. There are only 6 Lolas in the field compared to 25 Marches. Danny Sullivan has a March, a Roger Penske prepared March. There's the Haas Newman Lola. So these 2 cars may have very different characteristics. And so far, watching Danny run that shallow line over the yellow line down that low, Jim, that's very unusual.
Scoreboard showing it a half a second, but it certainly isn't. It's nothing now. Danny Sullivan going down low. Did he make the move? Sullivan down low. Side by side, Sullivan has the lead. Danny Sullivan, Kentucky.
No!
And just at that moment, losing control of the car, doing a magnificent job of not hitting the wall and continuing in the race. It's unbelievable.
The incredible move maybe ever in Indianapolis, and Mario didn't hit him, Jim. That's even more incredible. Andretti subtly moving to the side like a fighter, taking a punch but letting it slip by him. Sullivan at 200 miles an hour recovering from that spin. You have to go back to Jim Clark in 1964-5, Jim, to get a move like that on this racetrack.
I've never seen anything like it on the Indianapolis racetrack.
Incredible.
Unbelievable, but he's going to come in. That may have caused problems in the car.
That is absolutely unbelievable what we saw. Of course, he must now stop because he's flat-spotted those tires. He's coming down that very rough pit lane there, which keeps the speeds down.
Listen to the cheers for him.
Oh, it's incredible. This place has come alive, and of course, Andretti is in the pits too, both the leaders. But Sullivan is going to have to change all 4 tires because of that. Mario will go back out. You see, they're even changing that left front tire, which they never change.
Well, that'll cost him the lead, no question of it, but Danny Sullivan is back out on the race course. I have never seen a person take a spin like that and begin to slide towards the wall and still recover. Let's have another look at it. We're going to have slow motion here in just a moment.
I'll tell you exactly what I think happened, Jim, even before seeing it. Aerodynamic effects. Watch what happens. I'll bet you that as Sullivan gets in front of Mario, no, I'm dead wrong. It's running over that the white line. The very thing that he was doing that made him so fast, I think, tripped him in this one move. Yeah, Mario's too far back, I think, to have had a rear guard aerodynamic effect. But all right, now, Andretti faced with the moment of his driving life. He can't see where he's going. Fades slightly to the left by a miracle. Sullivan stays wide enough to the right, hits nothing, and we may have seen the most dramatic moment of racing, certainly that we're going to see this year. Incredible.
Danny Sullivan, with one of the most iconic moments in Indy 500 history, passing Mario Andretti for the lead going into turn number 1, was using the apron of the racetrack and gaining a bunch of time, but the transition knocked the car loose and he lost control and did a complete perfect 360 without hitting anything or Mario hitting him, and continuing on in the race without even losing a spot. Just absolutely wild, great car control, and a hell of a lot of luck to not hit the wall at Indianapolis, especially going over 200 miles an hour. Danny Sullivan also got pretty lucky because they did end up throwing a caution during this. So although he didn't even lose that much time in general, it really helped him out that the yellow flag came out and he was able to pit at the same time as Mario Andretti. But as I showed you before, pretty much everyone was only changing right side tires during their pit stop, and Danny Sullivan obviously had to change all 4, which made him lose more time on the pit stop. But nonetheless, the car was still in perfect condition and he would continue on.
Jim, as we look at a different angle, let's look at what Mario Andretti had to think about as all this was going on. Obviously, his first decision was to let Sullivan have running room on the inside. He didn't cut him off or anything. However, he didn't leave him a lot of room either, did he? So, all right. At the moment that Sullivan starts to lose it, and look at how quickly these cars can get away, Jim. It's so quickly. Andretti is suddenly driving blind here as soon as the smoke starts to pour off Danny's tire. Mario, and this is with years and years of instinct, does the right thing. He didn't try to get between Danny and the wall. He went on the inside, which actually, although it looks easy here, in our shot is the harder driving move to make because he had to pinch the car down instead of letting his car go wide. So Mario probably owes the fact that he didn't get involved in that crash to his years and years of driving and his perfect racing instincts.
The broadcast would come back from commercial and just catch the restart of the race, but it wouldn't be long before trouble would strike again.
And now the green flag is out. The green flag is out. They're still showing on the scoreboard Fittipaldi is the leader, but now they change it. Mario Andretti is the leader. Tom Sneva is now in second place, 1.6 seconds behind, and Sullivan still hanging there, only 1.9 seconds behind. Just amazing.
I think it's going to take a little while to get a grip on one's emotions. I guess that's what racing can sort of do after laps and laps of running that you can predict the outcome of. It explodes in front of you suddenly, something that switches the whole order of things around and just shows the exemplary and utterly fantastic skills that these men actually have.
You know, there are those who claim that people go to automobile races only to see people crash. There was a graphic demonstration. People want to see, I believe, man winning out.
Fittipaldi!
Oh, my Lord. Oh, my goodness. Oh, that is what people do not want to see. I don't know where.
Well, first of all, let me make sure I'm right. I just caught it out of the corner of my eye. I could be completely wrong. I am. It was Sneva. There's Fittipaldi. No.
Tom Sneva right here.
All right, there's Sneva.
Now, they say it may have been car number 20.
That's Rich Vogler.
No, it's 34, Rich Vogler.
Yeah, 60, and Sneva was trying to pass.
I'm sorry, I don't think it is.
Vogler.
It's 60.
It is Rich Vogler. I think that's how I got Fittipaldi out of it. All right. That's Sneva on the outside, extreme left of your screen, and he is going to pinch down across. No, he isn't either. There's Vogler taking the line. Sneva charges down into him.
Well, he just suddenly went right.
Yeah.
And into the wall.
as if Sneva didn't see Vogler or thought he was further ahead of him
There's Sneva
than he was.
down low. And someone just getting by there. And then, also hitting the wall. So they both did. Rich Vogler, a rookie who started 33rd in the field, 35 years old, however. He's been around for a while. First passed his driver's test here in 1980.
Now look at that wheel flying through. But now again, I've made an incorrect call because there was a third car involved. The triggering of this incident
Look at that.
was a third car
Just missed the driver
touching
of the car.
Vogler.
Yeah.
Sneva, here we go. Here's where the action starts. The car on the left here, which is Howdy Holmes. Look at that. It's Howdy Holmes that triggers the incident as he comes down on Rich Vogler. Sneva it wasn't Sneva's fault even remotely. Sneva, my God, there's Andretti in the middle of all this.
Yep.
Andretti gets by it. Incredible.
And there was Sneva just beginning to go down in the bottom left-hand corner.
Yeah, Sneva spinning apparently needlessly, frankly. He wasn't that close to the action. Andretti was able to get by.
Pretty scary looking crash. Rich Vogler got into the wall pretty hard there, but he ultimately ended up being okay, but was taken to the hospital for precaution. Unfortunately, Tom Sneva, who was running right behind Mario Andretti when this happened in second place, was taken out in the accident, at this point leaving only 3 cars on the lead lap. The restart was missed once again, but Danny Sullivan was once again right on the tail of Mario Andretti, closing in on the 3/4 distance of the race.
And you can imagine the ambivalence that Paul Newman must feel, incidentally, co-owning. Yep,
Here he comes.
Yeah.
Danny Sullivan side by side with Mario Andretti, and he does not get caught off this time.
Yeah.
And he does not spin. At that point, he takes the lead.
Yep, it's almost like I'm going to show you that I can do it. I'm going to grandstand it too, because that is, of course, Turn 1 at Indianapolis, where the biggest crowd in racing sits, and that's where Danny Sullivan picked his point to take the lead. And look at him stretch it out.
Coming to 60 laps to go, Danny Sullivan makes the move going into turn number 1 on Mario Andretti, but this time is able to get by him without any issues and would take the lead of the race and would immediately start pulling away. On lap 145, Danny Ungaius would lose an engine, bringing out the 6th caution of the race. The leaders would pit under the yellow, but at this point only 4 cars remained on the lead lap. And of course, you guessed it, the restart would be missed once again, and it would come back from commercial with the green flag already waved to the field. But in that short amount of time, Danny Sullivan just absolutely checked out, and Mario Andretti began feeling the pressure for second from Emerson Fittipaldi. And just a few laps later, he would indeed get by Mario, going into turn number 1 to grab the 2nd spot. In less than 20 laps since the restart, Danny Sullivan pulled out to a 12-second lead, but unfortunately the yellow would come out once again when a big crash would happen in turn number 2.
Paul Jr. John Paul Jr. down into the grass after hitting the wall.
I mean, all right, here we go.
Look at that tire.
Yeah, there must have been triggered by a wheel coming off of his car, because that wheel, was off the car, Jim, long before he hit the wall. And you see again, I make that point about the nose being fully intact. It's terrific to see. Much safer than ever, really.
John Paul Jr. was okay after this accident, but this ended up shaking up the running order in the front. Danny Sullivan would remain in the lead, but Mario Andretti would be able to get the 2nd spot back as Emerson Fittipaldi pitted under green right before this accident, which gave the opportunity to Danny Sullivan and Mario Andretti to pit under yellow. It wouldn't really matter for Emerson though, as just a few laps later, he would have a fuel line failure, which would ultimately end his day. If you were to put money on the restart not being shown, you could be a very rich man, because that is exactly what happened again. And Danny Sullivan pulled away immediately from Mario Andretti again on this restart too. With less than 10 laps to go, it looked like Danny Sullivan was just going to cruise away to the Indy 500 victory, but that was not the case, as Bill Winnington would get into the wall, bringing out the final yellow of the day, giving Mario Andretti one more shot to try to get back by Danny Sullivan and win the Indianapolis 500. Unfortunately, there is no replay of this incident, but the officials were able to clean it up rather quickly and able to get this race restarted. The green flag would come out with only 3 laps to go, Danny Sullivan in the lead, Mario Andretti in second. However, there was 2 lap cars in between Danny Sullivan and Mario Andretti, so Mario really had his work cut out for him.
The green out, and here they come.
Well, Jim, in that yellow, neither Sullivan nor Andretti pitted, so Andretti's car, they have not been able to change it in any way at all. Sullivan was able marginally to outrun him before. Andretti has already moved by one of the 2 guys he had to pass. He moved by Kevin Cogan, incidentally, his nemesis, the man who put him out of the race at the start several years ago, and now he's breezing by Howdy Holmes. Neither of those men wanted to get in the way of Mario Andretti.
Behind him, Al Unser Sr., who's a lap down and who would be right in this dash had he not been penalized a lap earlier in the race for running over his own air hose in the pit.
That is true.
But Danny Sullivan seems to have that same lead. But how careful he has to be on these last couple of laps.
And once again, what do you think? Penske's cars are, with just a couple of laps to go, now 2 laps to go, running first and third, just as they did at this point last year, Jim, in a race which, of course, was run by Rick Mears. This year, it may be Danny Sullivan.
Here comes the white flag, 1 lap to go. For the 35-year-old who, the point you make so well, Sam, he is known as the swinging bachelor of the circuit, but he has paid his dues. All the menial jobs he had with 13 years of racing behind him.
Yes, he has, but for all of the things that I hope and wish for Danny Sullivan, and I'm one of his greatest fans, this man, Mario Andretti, looks as if he's headed for defeat today on the day he said he had the best chance ever in his 20 years to win the Indianapolis 500. I feel incredibly for Mario, who put so much work and so much hope into this and is coming up short just a few seconds worth.
The old American hero will lose the race. The new American hero is Daniel John Sullivan III of Louisville, Kentucky, who has won the Indianapolis 500. Mario Andretti finishing second. Roger Penske, the crew chief. Now is the time to celebrate. They didn't budge a muscle until he had crossed the start-finish line, that yard of brick, for the last time.
The
Roger
changing of
Penske
the
team
guard.
winning for the 2nd year in a row.
Danny Sullivan with a remarkable win in the 1985 Indianapolis 500, holding off Mario Andretti and officially naming this race the Spin and Win, as it is definitely one of the greatest moments in Indianapolis 500 history. An iconic race and an iconic moment, not just for IndyCar, but in motorsports in general. Pretty wild. That's going to wrap up today's video. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I appreciate it. I hope you all had a good new year, and we're starting 2023 off pretty strong with this iconic Indianapolis 500 moment. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel for more classic racing content, and make sure to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, or a thumbs down if you didn't. Either way, I appreciate the feedback, and I hope to see you guys in my next one. Take care, everyone.